Hey everyone, my name is Mike Vaughn. I'm a writer at Geek Vibes Nation, and I'm also the author of The Ultimate Guide to Strange Cinema.
Oh, that's me.
Yeah.
And I'm Andre Couture. I am also a writer on Geek Vibes Nation, fellow co-host of Mike's at Humanoids from the Deep Dive, and I write some film reviews every once in a while at Celluloid Consomme at Medium.com. So excited to be here.
Hell yes, we are talking new releases, and we got a really cool one to kick things off, and that is Speak No Evil. This is a Dutch horror film, and it's really wild. So, just a quick synopsis: a Dutch family visits another Dutch family that they meet while on holiday, and what is supposed to be an idyllic weekend slowly starts to unravel as the Danes try to stay polite in the face of very unpleasant hosts, to say the least. So, um, I'm just gonna kick it off to you. What did you like? What was your kind of first impressions of this movie?
Well, okay, so I've been on these international trips before, and I've also been fairly young, so I was kind of like in the position of the little boy, but not entirely, of that Dutch family where we've stayed over at like a family's house that like we had only really known for maybe an afternoon. So they're like I understand the doubts that they have with that family, and it got um, it got uncomfortable fast, I guess, is what I would say. And that is what this movie is like. So if you are going into this thinking that it's going to be, I don't know, like one of something kind of similar to like a Wolf Creek or like a Tourist Trap kind of movie, it's not that. It's something that's way more, I guess, personal. Um, Also, beware if you have a kid, because this might really get to you. I'm glad that I don't, and I'm not a parent, so I was able to detach from that part. But I, first impressions is I think it's a little bit too overbearingly just bleak. Like it's incredibly bleak, and usually with something like that that's a little kind of over the top or really hammering this one tone in, you can find some kind of silver lining in it, something really enjoyable, even if it's something that's not supposed to be in kind of like a taboo type of way. I didn't really get that. Um, so for me, it was a little too much of one thing. But the performances are actually incredible, and that's the thing about it is it's a little bit too believable. It seems like a little bit of a documentary in how it's following the Danish family to this house in the Netherlands countryside, and it's yeah, it's quite oppressive, I would say.
Yeah, and I do want to. I wanted to keep this spoiler free, but I think at the end we'll let y'all know when we're gonna get into spoilers because I have to talk about this finale.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, it's hard
um,
to
yeah.
avoid, really.
So okay, my first impression is kind of similar to yours. It is almost overbearingly bleak. It almost felt like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, but like to the maximum fucked upness.
To 11.
Yeah, I thought okay, so I it was good, but I think kind of like flawed. Like I think it has a lot to say about like culturally, like how important politeness is, even at the detriment to your own kind of well-being. And I just thought that they didn't quite stick the landing as far as like getting that sort of core theme or like ethos down. And that's where I think the movie kind of rings a little hollow for me. Like it's trying to definitely be like something elevated, like what you would see in like a Jordan Peele movie, but um, again, it's kind of like I I was kind of yelling at my TV. I'm like, these people are clearly
Mm-hmm.
off. Like,
Yeah.
get the hell out. And it's like this absurd duty to politeness that you're actually going to put your family at risk. And I just thought it was, I don't think that, maybe it was like absurd in the satirical sense, but I never got the feeling that that's sort of where it was going with it.
Yeah.
Like had it been a little bit more like that, I think it would have maybe like if they really would have like leaned into that, it would almost feel a little bit more of satire of like how extra people are with lightness in their culture. Um, so that's kind of where I think it falls apart. But I will say the overbearing bleakness, I was kind of impressed that it just went all in.
Mm-hmm.
Like I kind of had to respect how it was just like we're going with this and like like it does not give a damn about your feelings. Like it's going to take you there, and that's where I kind of it felt like dangerous to me. And I love when a film can feel very like unsafe and like
Yeah.
dangerous. So I do appreciate that. But yeah, I thought I don't know, like there's it's just very like wonky with what it's trying to say. I never feel like it really sticks the landing in its message.
Yeah. It's I think the that angle of satire that you were mentioning, that's something extra that I think would have helped push it along, or like at least made you not only be okay with the family making these just consistently poor decisions of like just choosing to stay there. Like they had multiple opportunities to like just organically leave the environment, and they chose to come back every time or just to stay. And I think the satirical element could have helped it at least break away from its seemingly like grounded in reality setting where like and a bite of satire could have kept it like 1 foot in reality and 1 foot into this is something a little bit more than just a cautionary tale. Um, and I think it does one way more than the other. I think there's still like it has some satire there, but it's just so well hidden that it doesn't really know how to bring that out more. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, it's it's a hell of a thing.
it is. I mean, okay, so I think this is everybody's spoiler warning because I want to like dig into this ending.
Yeah.
So if you have not seen this movie yet, you might want to like skip ahead. We can probably put a time code of where we stop with this, but we have to talk about this ending.
Mm-hmm.
When I first saw it, um, like the credits were rolling, and I'm just like sitting here in like this silent stupor for a while because I'm just so like overwhelmed almost with the brutality of the ending.
Yeah.
So yeah, I almost think, and I'll kick it back to you. I almost think that the ending is so utterly bleak and brilliant, almost to the point of being operatic, that I think it
Mhm.
kind of makes the movie. I don't think it necessarily fixes some of the inherent problems, but I was like, holy shit, that was like an unforgettable ending.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, by doing what they did, and I guess we're in spoilers now. So basically, the family they're staying another night at the house, and in the middle of the night or something, the father wakes up and starts wandering around the house. I think he hears a sound and is like, "What was that? That doesn't sound like a house sound or someone like going to the bathroom or anything that could be perceived as normal." So he kind of starts exploring, and then for the first time, he discovers that there's like an attic there that he's never seen before, and neither have we. And he goes upstairs, and there's like so many like pictures just stapled to like the A frame inside of the roof, and he's just like staring at all of them. And it's that uh, husband and wife with other families who have one kid, and in every picture they have a different kid with them, and it's always the kid from the previous family, at least shown in the pictures in order. Um, and at that point, the audience should know what's happening, and at that point, the husband should know what's happening. And then he decides to actually try to leave with his family. And that's also when the other family has figured out that these guys deserve to die, or at least that they should die. So they they kidnap all three of them and then drive them out somewhere. Um, the kid gets taken from them by the babysitter dude who was sketch the first fucking second I saw him. Like I called that moment for sure. And then they take the parents out to the same quarry where the two dads, or dads, I guess, um, they just started drinking and having a good time. Then they order them to strip, lead them down into like the deep part of the quarry, and then they just straight throw stones at them until they die, and that is the end of the movie. Like,
Yeah, that is some like straight up biblical shit.
yeah, um, it, it almost kind of feels like too strong of a method of murder for a family that they just kidnap someone's child to keep them as prisoner, but they also cut their tongue out with using a really like dull pair of scissors. It just it feels like they don't those two actions don't quite go hand in hand. Like it's almost as
Yeah.
if they picked those kinds of sadistic actions out of a hat. Like the family does this, but they also do this, and it didn't quite like make total sense to me, especially as something that wanted to ground itself in um, a really strong sense of reality.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's effective though. Like it really, it's really fucked up, and
Yeah.
but like I didn't quite. It didn't exactly work for me in terms of convincing me that this is a thing that has happened hundreds of times, unless they just
Yeah.
killed the parents different ways each way. Otherwise, like that quarry is going to be stained with blood. Like if they bring multiple parents, groups of parents down there and just throw stones at them, um, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think if I pretty much agree with you on that. Like I think that if like we were saying how well I was saying like it's very biblical, and I think that is another missed opportunity baked in the writing if they could have folded that somehow in like as far as like foreshadowing with
Yeah.
like what ultimately was going to be their fate. Or as you say, like maybe they do maybe tailor this like murder method depending on the couple.
Yeah.
So like something like that they say or do almost could be like,
Hmm.
oh, that's why they decided to do it that way.
Yeah.
See, it's always such a shame when you have a movie that has a lot of potential, but here we are kind of figuring out the screenplay for them. Like, um, yeah, I mean, yeah, I just think had the narrative been a little tighter, if they were really going for satire, I think they could have just really went for it.
Hmm.
As it works now, it's fine. Like I was never bored, but I also think, and let me know if what you think about this, but there wasn't a lot of like real tense moments. Like I never really felt like there was like those moments where I'm like gripping the seat that I'm like that kind of like tense.
Yeah. I guess those moments were more translated to the moments when you were yelling at the screen, which is probably when I was too.
Yeah,
Like when they're invited to go out to dinner at the restaurant, and then they're already getting ready to go, like the parents and their daughter, like, all right, are you guys ready to go? And this strange man just comes into the house, and they're like, oh, he's just gonna babysit our kids. That's when I was like, okay, this isn't good. Like you just need to leave now. Like, fuck dinner, just leave.
yeah,
And like I feel like that was supposed to be a tense moment, but the that point of tension was literally just the guy who walks into the house, and like there was no lead up to that. There's no build up to the tension. It just happens, and it just becomes a little bit more. Um, I don't. It's just more disruptive as a force than it is tense.
yeah. Um, yeah, I know that's a great point. I know for me it was now forgive me because it's been a little while since I've seen this, but there's a scene where like the not the mother of the family that gets kidnapped, but like the like tourist family, like the mother's like sleeps in bed with one of the kids.
Yeah,
And
that was the dad, I think.
okay, and I was like, wow, that is a huge red flag. Like, how y'all
Hmm.
not just like getting the fuck out of there? Like,
Yeah, and they almost did too, but I think like the other parents convinced them to stay,
yeah,
and like I in what world though? Like I don't think that there were any. It seems like there was some kind of sequence that should have been there where an explanation was given or an excuse was made or something that really truly convinced at least the dad, because the dad seems like he's the one that likes to think that he can call the shots for the rest of the family,
yeah,
because he's the one who's actually the most unfazed by the other guy's actions up to a point, where like the mom is always like, I don't really like these people, they make me very uncomfortable, and he's like, don't worry about it, it's gonna be fine. But after that moment of like finding out that their daughter was in bed with the other dad, and he was like birthday suit naked, um, he it's hard to get convinced that you should stay multiple
right,
nights after that. So
yeah,
it seems like something might have been missing from that. maybe on a screenplay basis, uh, maybe editing. I'm not sure, but um, it was a little bit. It kind of jumped the shark a little bit in terms of logistically how they're still there for me.
Oh yeah, because like I mean, there's that. I mean that's the huge red flag. But there was like a whole color guard of red flags prior to
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yep.
But I think that's where again it's like this broken satire because now I will fully admit that I don't know a lot about Danish culture, but I I would hardly think that they are so polite that they would just let all of that stuff happen. And
Yeah. I don't think so.
yeah, like I don't know, it's wild, but yeah. Um, so I think we'll do some final thoughts. I'll like kick it to you and what you kind of like wrapping up some points.
Yeah. Um, so while I was watching this, I was thinking this kind of feels like home invasion horror, but it's like the other side of it. Um, I guess you could call it like hospitality horror, um, where like you get invited to someone's house, but they control that whole environment, like everything about it, the house, the countryside, the fact that there's no one there for maybe a dozen miles or so, um, and that's a concept that could actually take off for a lot of different filmmakers. You can definitely frame a bunch of different stories and issues around that. And I think what this has is it might be better as a template than the actual film, in my opinion, where it shows you what can be done with it, and it's it doesn't quite get to the point where it uses its situations and settings to the absolute maximum, but I think it's something that you should see if you're interested in home invasion horror, or if there's other movies like this, like hospitality horror, or if you're wanting to, maybe write one of your own. This would be an excellent film to critique. I mean, as we've been doing right now, it would help to just help you figure out how to put this kind of film together, because it has pretty much all the elements there. It's just there's just a few things missing from it that can make it at least impulsively watchable. And the thing about this movie is I probably won't ever watch it again. Mostly because of how just like dark it gets, and um, it's more than just like a point of no return for them. It's just that they never realize um, how many mistakes they've made, which is usually something that you see in these kinds of movies, where they realize like what mistakes they made exactly at the point where it's too late to take those back. Um, but as a final thought, I'd say you should see it if, and then those conditions apply. So it's one of those asterisk movies. I'm not gonna say that if you're blind watching it, you're gonna get a lot out of it. Um, if you, it's a great date movie if you don't like your date. I'll say that.
Yeah. You don't ever want to have kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, a
Um,
good kid movie.
yeah. Yeah, no, those are some great points. I would say that I would actually love to see this being remade. Um, like, I actually think that this would be a really interesting British horror film because I know culturally there's a an importance, I think, to politeness and keeping up appearances. all that good
Yeah.
stuff.
Stiff upper lip and all that.
Right. So yeah, I think that that almost would be the perfect, as you say, you know, you were spot on by saying seems more like a template to what you could do.
Hmm.
So yeah, I would just say, for final thoughts, I thought it was a decent concept, but I kind of wish that they would have really worked more on the screenplay. It almost felt like they came up with a concept and then didn't really build anything around it of substance. It's almost like they were like they had the ending like that really
Hmm.
fucked up ending, and then was like worked their way backwards.
Yeah, I guess so.
But yeah, but like not in a way that felt really thoughtful. Because again, there's so many missed opportunities, and it's like they were at no point until the end were they really held captive. I mean, there's a point where they literally are in the car about to leave, and
They turn back because
nothing.
of that fucking bunny.
Um, and not to nitpick, and I try not to be like pedantic with stuff like this, but like these this like tourist couple are not discreet. Like they hang out with these couples and then the couples go missing or whatever. How are they able to do this for
Yeah,
so long? Like,
that's another thing.
um,
Like
yeah, like
the logistics of it. Like, how have you not been found out? And like, how many couples has this been? Because like, there are a lot of
it was a
pictures in that
lot.
house,
Yeah,
and they keep those pictures. I'm like, okay, what do you do with the tongues? What do you do with the dead bodies? What do you do with the dead kids' bodies? Because like, they're apparently disposable too.
yeah,
And like, I don't know. I mean, like, I guess they kind of explain like the smallest bit of it away where the guy says like, "Oh yeah, I don't work. I don't believe in work." Yet he's creating work for himself to get
yeah,
rid of these bodies, and it's unpaid, thankless work. So like, what? That's also another thing. What did they get out of this? Even if it's some perverse sense of uh, joy, like I don't know because they never give us any insight to them either.
yeah,
That's another thing I just now realized is something that I've kind of taken issue with. Even if like I can say, yeah, fuck these parents. This little girl definitely deserves to die, which is not anything I have ever thought during the movie. But if we gave the villain some kind of I don't know, dastardly mustache twirling flash, like, something kind of like in a Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 kind of way, as like an absolute example, um, I would have been able to shift over. Um, but yeah, it's they missed some opportunities to say
yeah,
that.
yeah. The narrative is just very flimsy, and I can see where the wheels are turning, but again, it's so shallow that I think that it never really wants to answer any of those questions. Like I don't mind like glossing over a few inconsistencies like that or
Hmm.
plot holes. As long as they're not like Grand Canyon level, I'm fine. But here we are trying to parse out their screenplay, and that's never really
Yeah.
ideal. Wrapping up, if you were to rate this, out of five tongues, what would your
Uh, you know, it would probably be two dead kids, their tongues,
okay?
or maybe one of them dead, one of them still alive, but the tongues are there.
Yeah, it's just like sticking out a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say I would even maybe say like yeah, I'd probably say like I was gonna say one and a half, but I'd maybe give two because
Yeah.
the acting is good. I mean, the concept is pretty solid. I just think that gosh, I just wish they would have like thought it through better,
Hmm.
ultimately. But I think it's worth experiencing just once, just to see like how utterly bleak and nihilistic an ending can be. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, I think it would be really a really interesting remake if it was kind of like they took that, as you say, template and really reworked it in a way that feels a little more like complete. Um, yeah, I guess that'll do it for that review. As always, definitely consider giving this video a like, subscribe, comment, all of that great stuff. And yeah, we will see you in the next video.
Yeah.